couple of weeks ago, I took a trip from London King's Cross Station to the Cairngorms National Park in the middle of Scotland, located somewhere between Aviemore and, Middle-earth. 7 hours on a train sounded like a great opportunity to read and watch a few movies. Although my new movies hadn't downloaded to my iPod, and after a few chapters of Fight Club, I remembered that reading on public transport generally makes me feel ill. So I settled on staring out the window, occasionally snoozing, and an hour or so of an ex-Navy SEAL barking in my headphones about building unbreakable mental fortitude, which I suppose became more and more appropriate as it got dark and my view disappeared. My final destination was Glenmore Lodge, a training centre with a long history as the place for British mountaineers, climbers and adventurers to learn, develop and eventually qualify as mountain leaders. The lodge suggests 4,000 calories a day to keep you fueled for the activities ahead. It's even outlined clearly on the wall of the canteen. So after a full cooked breakfast, porridge, dried fruit and coffee, I grabbed my lunch, which consisted of 2 sandwich rolls, 1 chocolate bar, 1 piece of cake and 1 piece of fruit. My bag for the day is packed with an avalanche probe, transceiver, a shovel, ice axes, 2 pairs of gloves, 2 beanies, climbing rope, helmet, snow goggles, crampons, and a climbing harness. Feeling excited for the day ahead, I met with my instructor Kev and climbing buddy for the course, Tom. First thing, I'm asked if I've reviewed the weather forecast for the day from at least 2 reliable sources. I have not. Kev takes us to the big weather screen in the corridor and talks us through snowfall overnight, temperature over the last 12 hours, and wind speed and direction. Kev calmly describes the conditions for the day as similar to putting your head in a washing machine, but with the additional benefit of high winds, low temperature, and low visibility. He seems nice. For the morning, we work on basic mountaineering and tool skills on the lowlands, taking advantage of being mildly protected by the hill we're working on. After a few hours of work, I'm feeling surprisingly comfortable. Kev, the instructor, is extremely knowledgeable, patient and to the point. He's exactly what you'd hope from a mountaineering instructor. Someone who will answer any question, but also shouts at you and let you know when you put yourself or others in potential danger. We are back at the lodge for the afternoon, crampons on, perfecting our climbing technique on the stone walls on the grounds of the lodge. Finally, a little rope work and correct abseiling technique before cake, coffee and debrief. Apparently climbers like cake. Glenmore Lodge is definitely more training centre than holiday resort. My evening consists of another huge cooked meal, 2 lectures on mountain hazards and avalanche safety, storing wet kit in the drying room and heading to my bunk for a much needed shower and sleep. Day 2. First thing, I check the weather forecast on the big screen before carrying on my way to starting 4,000 calories. It takes about an hour and a half to walk from the van up to the high snow-covered hills. Looking behind us, we can see the end of the snow line, the green forest, hills and lakes stretching out into the distance. Ahead are towering hillsides covered in fresh snow, ice and rock faces, each with its own personality and distinct look. As we get closer into what feels like an enormous 3-sided ball, we begin to spot pairs of small dots on the snow walls at different heights. These are other climbers taking on climbs of varying difficulty and one pair taking a questionable route up a north face. After some time assessing the risks, our instructor selects our climb for the day. He points out the route up into the mouth of a long gully, across a rock face, and then some suggestions of zigzag climbs up the rock and ice covered face to finish on the peak. The initial approach is a zigzag walk up a steep incline. The first pitch is straightforward, and at a guess moves from about 35 degrees to 45 degrees. This takes us to the entrance of the gully, and a stone shelf where we tie into the gear our instructor has pushed into the wall, reset the belay, pull through the ropes and prepare for Kev to lead the way across up into the rock face. Although this is a rock face, the gaps between and on top of the large boulders are covered in a mixture of fresh snow, snow ice, water ice and patches of frozen foliage. The mixture of crampons and ice axes are extremely effective in this kind of environment. My footwork consists of either kicking the front crampon spikes into the snow ice or using the spikes in cracks or on top of rocks. I quickly realised that managing where I put my feet and where I support my body weight is key to maintaining my energy. The ice axes can be used in 4 main ways. 1. Holding the head and using the 2 axes in a similar way to very small walking sticks. Number 2. Gripping the neck of the axe just below the head and using the spike to climb more like Spider-Man. 3. The climbing technique you will have seen in climbing magazines. Holding the handle and reaching high to hit the head of the axe into snow, ice, or frozen foliage. This often takes a few strikes to clear the fresh snow to get a sturdy hold in the older snow ice. Finally, you can hold the axe in the same way as the overhead technique, but use the axe in cracks in between rocks to create a handle. At the end of each pitch, we have a chance to move our focus away from what's needed to keep us moving upwards to the amazing view below, above, and into the distance. After 3 pitches, we're above halfway there. The sky is clear, but some clouds have drifted in to cover some of the nearby peaks. The wind had stayed manageable today, but it's clear that things can change quickly, especially when you're halfway through a climb and tied to an exposed rock face. Our safety today is process-driven. Each of us must follow a list of tasks at each point in each climb. Each belay anchor consists of 2 pieces of gear in the ice, cracks, or a secure sling around a rock. The lead climber places gear at intervals during his climb, each one reducing the distance he will fall if anything happens. Once a new belay point is reached, he has to place a new anchor points and tie himself in. We communicate with a number of simple commands shouted into the wind so that we know when it is safe to climb. The following climber can then detach from the original anchor and remove the equipment as he reaches each point on the climb up. Upon reaching the new belay point, he ties into the anchor, is removed from belay, prepares to belay the lead climber and repiles the rope. This continues until the top. When I pull myself over the top of the final pitch, the view is amazing. I look down over what we've just climbed, out over the rocky peaks and around 360 degrees of rolling snow-covered hills. Once Tom is up and the ropes packed away, it's time to hoover whatever is left of our lunch. It's now clear why we need 4,000 calories. The walk back down a long ridge is much less exciting than on the way up, but the view and the sense of achievement makes up for it. My hard plastic boots take their toll as we head past the nearby ski resort, digging into my shin as every downward step pushes my feet forward slightly into the tightly laced and unforgiving footwear. Chatting to Tom, Kev and the 2 other climbers we met helps to pass the time, but ultimately it's just the hard work that usually comes with achieving something new and exciting. Back at the lodge, one more cake debrief, one more lecture and a trip to the kit store to return my equipment, and it's time to head home. My 2 days feels like a week. I'm exhausted but very happy. My train arrives at Avonmore Station at 9:30 p.m. and takes 10 hours to trundle its way back down to London. I arrive at 7:30 a.m. on Wednesday morning, which gives me just enough time to run home, dump my bag, have a shower, and make myself look mildly presentable for my client meeting at 9 a.m.